What's going on, everybody? It is Sparks Comics here. It is time to talk about Final Order Cutoff books this week. We've got 7 new indie comics on Final Order Cutoff, and then I'm going to talk about 3 returning books that are in their second or third issue, just to put those on your radar once again. But let's talk about these number ones first of all. First up, we've got 2 from Image Comics. We've got All Against All, number 1 of 5, from Alex Paknadel and Casper Wingard. Casper doing the art on Limbo and Homesick Pilots. Alex doing stories like DC versus Vampires, All Out War, Giga, which still waiting on that issue 5. Someday we'll get it. This book, it's presenting a primal vision of humanity gone terribly wrong. In All Against All, it is the distant future. Earth is long gone, but race of alien conquerors known as the Operators have preserved its most savage animals in an artificial jungle environment they barely understand. With no bodies of their own, the Operators move from world to world, harvesting bodies for the organic exosuits they use to wage their endless wars. Ignored and underestimated by his captors is the habitat's sole human specimen, Helpless. However, when their efforts to find and harvest an apex predator intensify, he gives them far more than they bargained for. This essentially, I was hearing an interview with Alex Paknadel, and essentially they took the whole if you think about Alien Predator, that kind of idea, where we've got humanity suddenly fighting for their lives against the alien, flipped that on its script and said, what if the aliens were fighting for their lives against the single human? Which sounds really cool. I love Casper's artwork, always a great style, especially for a book like this. Looking at it, it definitely gives me Homesick Pilot vibes, of course, because that's Casper's style, but this one looks great, so be sure to check that one out. And Radiant Pink, number 1 of 5, is also on Final Order Cutoff this week. We've got a story from Megan Camarena and Melissa Flores. Melissa doing the story within the Radiant Black universe called The Dead Lucky, now co-writing this one. Artwork by Emma Kubert. Emma doing Inkblot, also is doing a project on Frank Miller's imprint. So love her artwork. Fantastic style that she has, and Melissa's writing on The Dead Lucky has been phenomenal. So another one I think is really good, and we've been introduced to Radiant Pink before, but now we're going to get a whole story about her. Life is good for Ava ever since teleporting superhero Radiant Pink, her secret alter ego, started guesting on her streams. Her view count has skyrocketed, and fame and fortune are surely close behind. But when a charity appearance is interrupted by a squad of mercenaries hunting for the radiant that powers her, Ava will find herself far out of her comfort zone. Join streaming superstar Megan Camarena, rising star writer Melissa Flores, and third-generation comics artist Emma Kubert for a galaxy-hopping thrill ride from the world of Radiant Black. A perfect entry point for new readers to the line, and the perfect new series to hand sell to those hooked on Rogue Sun, Radiant Red, The Dead Lucky, and Cowl. I actually don't know what Cowl is, but doesn't sound like that's part of the Radiant universe. I could have missed something, but it could be an older series that I'm not as familiar with. But love the character Radiant Pink. Can't wait to see what they do with this story. We're going to move on to Boom Studios, where they've got Vicious Circle from Lee Bermejo and Matson Tomlin. Lee Bermejo doing all of the interior artwork on it. It is beautiful from what I've seen of the previews pages. And the screenwriter, Matson Tomlin from Batman the Imposter, is the writer on this. Sean Thacker is a trained assassin from the future who seeks revenge on the only other man in with his affliction. Each life they take forces them both to travel between vastly different past and future eras, spanning from 22nd century Tokyo to the 1950s New Orleans to the Cretaceous era and beyond. The two mortal rivals are locked in a battle of wills that spans millions of years, all to alter the course of history. With each time period, Lee Bermejo adjusts his artistic style to pay homage to luminary comics artists and historical master painters, all presented in a prestige, oversized format. Honestly, I think this is just going to be a beautiful book to look at, even if you end up not liking the story. Lee Bermejo's artwork is that good that you could just flip through this and just look at it. But the story sounds pretty interesting as well. I'm probably going to trade weight this one mainly because it has a $9.99 price tag because it is that prestige oversized format. It is a 3-book series, so there's probably a lot of content in those 3 books, and Boom will probably put this. It seems like one they would put into a hardcover down the line, so I think that's how I'll read this one, but I think it's really cool. I do want to check that one out. Next up, going to the comics and graphics novels section, we've got one from Mad Cave Studios, Dahlia in the Dark, #1 of 6. This is the New York Comic Con exclusive variant, so it's kind of a pre-release that they had go on there. Picked it up on Mad Cave's Whatnot show. Joe Corallo, who's been on the channel many times, is the writer on this one. Andrea Milana is the artist, and the artwork is fantastic in this. Washed-up hitman Donnie Dahlia takes one last job transporting a package across the country in hopes of seeing his estranged daughter again. Little does he know this job is going to get him caught in the middle of a war between the fairy realms that could determine the fate of humankind. Dahlia in the Dark is a fast-paced action fantasy thriller about family and hidden truths. It is phenomenal. I'm going to work on a full review for it, but let me just say, it's got a very impactful message behind it, and the connection between the fairy creatures like even a werewolf, mermaids and things, their connection to the earth and the earth really fighting back against humanity is a pretty powerful message, because humanity's kind of messing the world up. And this Donnie Dahlia as our protagonist, main character in here, definitely gonna get some emotional scenes from him, because there's definitely some sort of estrangement between him and his daughter, and the last page or two of this, the kind of cliffhanger that we get left on, really sets up some more emotional things in that area. So I'm super excited for this one. Please go check this one out. Put those orders into your shop. Let them know you want to pick up Dahlia in the Dark. It's definitely one of those titles you don't want to pass up on. Speaking of really awesome titles that you don't want to pass up on, we got Gangsta Ass Barista #1. Gangsta Ass Barista is featuring Trinity from Destiny, New York. It is a coffee-fueled crime comedy from Pat Shand. Pat Shand was just on the channel talking about another book from the Destiny New York world that he is kickstarting right now, so please go check out that interview. But this book we also talked about briefly because it's coming single issues now from Black Mass. Trinity used to live a life of crime, but now she has left behind her old life and works at a coffee shop. Unfortunately, making ends meet isn't easy to do with a minimum wage job. Not to mention the fact that customers are beginning to get on Trinity's nerves. And it's getting harder and harder to not let her old tendencies take control. I mean, I get it. When Trinity's past comes calling, it's like the famous quote, "Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in." Includes a bonus comic in each issue. Collect covers by rising stars Connor Hughes and series co-creator Renzo Rodriguez. There are some really cool covers. They're including some black and white line work kind of things. There's several ratios on this, so check this out. I really think it's worth you hopping into some part of the Destiny New York world, because Pat does such a great job of exploring characters, really diving into who they are in different arcs. And this is an entire arc focused on Trinity, who started as a background character in Destiny New York and soon became pretty essential to parts of it. If you've read any of the single issues that were released so far of Destiny New York, you'll know how her role is important. We're going to go over to one for Aftershock Comics. We got Maniac of New York. Don't Call It a Comeback. From Elliot Callan and Andrea Moody. Maniac Harry, the seemingly unstoppable killer, has finally been stopped. The city celebrates, the mayor takes the credit, and Maniac Task Force Director Gina Green, last seen slicing the Maniac's head open, has disappeared to parts unknown. Now, New York Police Department Detective Zelda Pettibone must pick up the pieces of a life that's suddenly so empty she almost wishes the Maniac was back. And unfortunately, sometimes wishes are granted. That's right, there's a new Maniac, but not the one you're expecting. Stay out of Central Park and stay away from cable news, because something terrifying is on the loose. Writer Elliot Callan and artist Andrea Moody return to the acclaimed horror satire series for a tale of horrifying gore and even more horrifying cultural relevance. I've been really enjoying the whole thing. I thought we were done, and suddenly we don't have a comeback. We can't call it a comeback, but we got a comeback here. Lastly, in the number ones that are on Final Order Cutoff this week, we have Quested number 1 from Whatnot Publishing, written by Michael Calero and Thomas Parson, with art by Kit Wallace. And Rising Star at Marvel and DC Comics, Kim Jacinto, provides a iconic debut cover. Quested fuses the attitude of Hellboy in the fantasy adventure spirit of Legend of Zelda, as it follows the questing misadventures of pawn shop owner and morally ambiguous hero for hire Jinx through a world filled with lizard henchmen, dungeon bosses, and unicorn burgers. Episode 1, Faux Highness. When a plan to take advantage of a desperate king trying to protect his daughter goes wrong, Jinx and his 2 accomplices, guild members, find themselves actually having to save the princess. Those are the number ones. We've got a couple more to talk about here, though, real quick. Behold Behemoth, issue number 2 from Boom Studios, from Tate Bromble and Nick Robles. Just what happened between the past and the present to create a world so overrun by supernatural monstrosities. Meanwhile, Ren and Gray continue their journey across the apocalyptic landscape, hiding their true selves and struggling to suppress their inner demons. And then over to Sumerian Comics, we've got Nobody's Girls, number 2 of 3, from writer Damian Connolly and artist Matias San Juan. From the creator of You Promised Me Darkness, the search for Lupe continues. Emmett and Norma start sticking their noses where they shouldn't have, and the weather starts to get really murky. A journey to the darkest places of a rotten city. And last but not least, from Ablaze Publishing, we've got Traveling to Mars number 2 from Mark Russell and Roberto Melli. Hot new talent, comes a compelling new sci-fi series, ... They didn't put anything else into issue 2, what's happening. But I did a review for Traveling to Mars over on the website, so go check out the website, youpromisedmecomics.com. Links down below. Read the review for Traveling to Mars, because it is a fantastic series so far. The satire that's built in, situational humor, it's phenomenal. It's what Mark Russell does best, and it's got some really thought-provoking moments in it, and you're just gonna read this and you're gonna sit and you're thinking about your own mortality for a while. And what would you want to be on your what would you want people to say when you die? And it's interesting that this main character, didn't really care. His father did, but now he is gonna be the first person on Mars. And what does that do to you, going out there into space by yourself with 2 AI robots? I can only imagine. But that is it. Those are the 10 books I want to talk about today on Final Order Cutoff. There's a lot more over on that cutoff, so go check out the full list on the Previews World website. You can click on Catalog and then Final Orders Due. You'll see the full list there. But these are the ones I wanted to highlight. So thank you guys for listening to this this episode of Final Order Cutoff. Appreciate you guys watching. Let me know down below what you're picking up this week. And as always, collect what you love. See you next time.